All righty, it is 7 PM. I'm going to call It is 7 PM. I'm going to call this meeting to order. November 7th, 2024 Village Board Meeting. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome and thank you. The clerk could please call the roll.
Trustee Eifert, here. Trustee Frank, here. Trustee Bedlin.
Here.
President Gerke.
Here.
Trustee Dorwart.
Here.
Trustee Bart. Here. Trustee Miley.
Present.
Thank you.
Excellent. We are all here. Obviously have a quorum. We'll move on. Next section is for public comments. If anybody has any public comments about anything that is not on the agenda, we just ask that you step up to the mics that isn't working and state your name so that everybody else can hear it that might be on Zoom watching us being recorded. And please limit it to 5 minutes per person. So any public comments for anything that's not on the agenda? Oh.
Al Stefan, and I'm sorry for being intimidating.
Thank you, sir. All right,
Being intimidating.
that's all he's got. Any other public comments? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Hal.
So,
Next, move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the approval of the minutes from October 24th, 2024, Village Board Special Meeting, and approving the general fund, water and sewer invoices. And we do have a list of additional bills.
Motion to approve consent agenda with additional bills.
Second.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have reports on village committees. We'll start with the Finance Committee.
I think we can skip over the finance committee because it's pretty much going to be covered in presentations.
Sounds good. Any objections to that? I don't see any, so we will move on to Parks and Recreation.
All right, so we actually had two Parks and Recreation meetings, since our last board meeting. The first one was to talk about, some open space planning. The OWSBA, joined us that night and they were starting to talk about the possibility of adding additional fields to the village. We had some thoughts and some discussion around that. I reached out to Administrator Jenkins in regards to the baseball diamonds at Wabadonia Park. And he's reaching out to the county parks to see what we can do to help improve those fields for the baseball group. And continuing to add that to our open space planning and the continued discussions on that. So it's really exciting. They're really hoping to be able to continue to grow their program and bring more baseball for the Little League and Junior League and girls softball to the village. We talked about holiday banners, and DPW Director Paulus actually brought two of the holiday banners that will be, did you guys start putting them up yet? Or are they gonna go up soon? So exciting, some new decorations for the village, which will be good. We discussed the splash pad schedule and started discussing possible grand openings and phase 3, what that would look like further down the road. We spoke about River Edge Nature Center donations. And I think there's a recommendation for the board. I'm not sure what meeting that's going to come at, but there should be a recommendation coming soon. We talked about some future considerations. One is, and this I think will be a good discussion for everybody, is the possibility of changing the trick or treat times within the village. It's been controversial over the years from what I understand. So stay tuned for further discussions on that. We also talked about some Hillcrest development and some possible property that's going to be coming up soon. And then we went to our planning committee, which we held last night. We talked in great length about the holiday tree lighting, which is on December 1st at 5 Sunday. Santa will be showing up at 5:15, so feel free to bring the kiddos down. There's gonna be hot chocolate and hopefully a choir will be singing for us there. We will be opening up the holiday decorations for the nonprofits pretty quick here. I believe Mr. Jenkins is working on putting together an event for that. And we'll start taking, Michelle, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we'll start taking slips and everything for
Oh,
people that are
yeah.
interested.
I found out about 5 minutes ago. We
Perfect.
have our first 2 trees already gone.
Good. Well, let's see what else. We talked about the winter walk. We'll touch base more on that as we get a little bit closer, but that's scheduled for February 1st. And then we talked about our fundraising letter that will be going out soon, in conjunction with the Friends of Fredonia Group. And continued our planning for Fun Before the 4th. We also talked about, I won't forget it, our Tuesday Tunes, and we're starting to look at booking bands for that. So that's exciting. We've got our dates picked and everything. So watch social media and the village site for more information on those.
Excellent. Any questions of our Parks Chair? One thing I want to make sure we don't lose sight of is the time capsule and taking care of that before the end of the year. So I don't know if there's been any update on that at all or not.
Not recent updates, but I'll make sure that we get
Okay.
stuff together for that.
I'm sure our DPW director would like to not take a pole that's frozen.
I could find big.
New big equipment?
Borrow.
Awesome. I love it.
Just give Eric and Brandon a shovel. They'll be fine.
That's true. All right, any other questions for our Parks Chair? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next, we have presentations. 2025 annual draft budget by Administrator Jenkins. Take it away, sir.
Well, thank you. Before I get into all that, I want to give a couple shout outs. First off to our election workers. We just had our general election, as you all know, on Tuesday. So I want to thank all of them. It was certainly a team effort. I'm surprised that both sides, the town and the village, got out as early as we did. That's a miracle. And we had, what was it, 95.6% voter turnout
That's
in the
amazing.
village,
Love
which
it.
is
4 votes, 622 were absentees and 104 registrations.
spoken like a true chief inspector.
There was 1,436 ballots voted,
Yes, but 2 of them are
but
provisional.
2 of them are provisional.
That we are
So
going to take care of.
Our
tomorrow.
march continues.
So.
But it was great.
Yes.
So that was the first shout out. The second one has to do with that. Obviously, we all know that the paramedic referendum passed, which is certainly wonderful for all of northern Ozaukee County. And just something that I was thinking about after it passed. I mean, obviously, we're all so proud that it passed and we have this awesome public safety program for northern Ozaukee. But think about this, that where majority of communities, when they've done this, they've hired marketing firms to go out and do all this. Your in-house team did all of this work, whether it was the website or marketing or the educational session. They're just kind of trying to spread the word. We didn't spend $15,000 to $25,000 on a marketing team. That's because of the value of the awesome team that we have here in the village. So that's just amazing too. And I just want to thank everybody for their efforts in with that. So
Question regarding that, did the
Yeah.
village of Belgium, did they pass theirs?
Yes.
too?
Yep.
And the other 2 jurisdictions, their boards,
So
Passed
the
it.
2 villages did, the town of Fredonia did, the town of Belgium decided they're just going to dig into reserves for next year and they're asking their electors in April for that money. So either way, yes, they're all a yes for funding.
so it's basically a yes.
Correct. Yep, you got it. All right, well, I will kick this off. This is our annual budget presentation that I enjoy getting to do. I was expecting, by the way, to stand up over there, but thank you to Trustee Begland, who showed me how to wirelessly hook up. So now I can be fancy like that. So to give you some perspective, this is my 3rd annual budget with the village. I feel like each year our entire team gets a better understanding of our individual line items, where the dollars go in and out. And so each year I feel more confident. I'm sure our team does too, in just our better understanding of this budget. So I look forward to presenting this up to all of you. We're going to cover a few different categories. There's it going to go. It's catching up with me. Well, I'll just wait for it. And I'm on a different screen than that is. Come on, Rick. It was good for a bit.
See you, sir.
Oh, okay, that's where I'm at. All right, we're going to cover with the 2024 projections, go through the budget schedule and strategy, talk about challenges this upcoming year, go over our major capital projects, our general fund snapshot, budget highlights, and then we'll talk about the tax levy and tax rate impact to our homeowners. All right, so first we're going to look at this year, 2024 general revenues. So you see that we have brought in or estimated to bring in 100% of majority of our revenues. These are our taxes, our intergovernmental revenues, licenses and permits, public charges, fines and fees, and there's just a slight decrease in other revenues. This is like the miscellaneous interest and other things that we might accumulate in the general fund. On the expense side, if it's going to go. I'll just keep talking. Expense side. There we go. On the expense side, you see that we're 100% in our general government, slightly under in public safety. That's from savings within the marshal's office that we've talked about in the past. 100% for public works, 102% in parks, so slightly over budget there. Under budget in our conservation and development plans. That's just our general marketing that we do. And then 100% in our planned fund transfers. When we look at the budget schedule, this is the same schedule that we typically do, except everything was pushed later with the election. We determined our final values with our assessor. We created the CIP that was approved by you all. We went through line item requests by department heads. We completed the levy limit worksheet. And then we presented the draft budget to the finance committee, who made a recommendation to you all, which is what the step that we're at now. November 5th, we just got the election results, and now we're set for November 21st to be our public hearing and final adoption of both the levy and then the budget itself. Our budget strategy matches the overarching one that we see on the wall there, where we have responsible fiscal policy. So that means numerous things. First, it's fiscally sound. We continue to review our services, our programs, and make sure that we're limiting cost increases wherever we can. We're community focused. The service levels that we continue to offer to the community are important, as well as working with our community partners. And finally, we're employee focused. We maintain wage increases. We think flexible work-life balance is important, and we think a strong benefit package is what keeps our small but mighty team engaged here. Now, we certainly have challenges, as anybody. We have inflationary pressures. We have equipment costs and lead time that continue to grow. Technology costs and our reliance continue to go up. We have the new paramedic program and the referendum, the unknowns that might come with that next year. Insurance costs continue to go up. We continue to have aging facilities. We're continuing to monitor the lab revenues versus expenses. And finally, as we always say, capital improvement plan, that list is always going to grow. There's always going to be costs, and it's just a matter of which ones we want to fund at what times. Speaking of those projects, I don't know. You're just doing the opposite slide every time. There we go. Our capital projects, we have our public works equipment. It makes up a bulk of our costs, $413,000. We have street and utility works. That's the 306 for the street that goes to Marie Krause. We have a little bit of fire equipment, a little bit of parks, our Marshall building with the roof, and then our security updates as well. So it's a high level picture of those CIP projects, which you all have already approved as well. Here's a snapshot of the general fund budget. This is the 2024 adopted versus what is proposed. So you see an increase in the overall general fund by about 9%. The increase to the tax levy is the 21%, which again makes up the referendum that was just passed. We have other revenues of 9%. Assessed values, as we all know, with the revaluation went up significantly. So it went up about 87 million in assessed value. So when we take the tax amount that we need to get divided by the assessed value, that gives us that mill rate that's down there, or the tax rate. So you could see again, the value of the villages went up, So even though the amount that we're collecting has gone up, when you divide that out, the mill rate itself has gone down. So it's going from that $6.53 to $5.07, which means if, we'll talk about this later, if your home stayed at $300,000 of value between 2024 and 2025, you would see a net decrease in your taxes. But we'll talk about the levy and how that impacts people in a little bit. Here's just a high level pie chart of where our incomes come from, a majority of which is taxes. After that, we have our intergovernmental revenues that we get, and then a small portion of our licenses and permits and miscellaneous income. The big changes, as we discussed, the paramedic services, the 200K referendum coming in. We are expecting an increase in our construction permit revenues because of the industrial park buildings that are going up next year. And we're also planning on ongoing positive interest within LGIP and storing more of that money there in those savings accounts. On the expense side, you can see a myriad of things that we pay for, the bulk of which is our public works. So that's the 25% there that you see there. After that, we have our general government, our debt service funds, and then underneath that in smaller categories goes public safety, other capital projects, fire department, and other transfers that we need to do throughout the year. So some highlights on the expense side. We're seeing an 18% decrease in our general government expenses. There's two reasons for this. One is because we're not doing a revaluation like we did this year. That was a very costly item. Now that we're not doing that, we just have our annual assessment fees. So that went significantly down. The other change that we did was the split of insurance. So prior to this 2025 budget, our entire insurance policy would hit the general fund. When really, when Treasurer Depuus and I looked at it, it's for fire, it's for lab, it's for water, it's for sewer, right? So it makes sense to take that insurance burden and spread that out appropriately amongst the funds. So because we did that increased the burden within the general fund. Moving on, we're seeing a 4% increase to public works. So this includes our ongoing maintenance with streets and that new line item for sidewalks. We have a 9% decrease in parks, even though we're still investing in our maintenance and staff time. We see a $189,000 transfer to the new paramedic program. There's two pieces to that. 100K is to fund our costs within the paramedic fund this year. And then as we discussed in finance, we were kind of left over with that 89,000, and the finance committee recommended, let's put that specifically into the paramedic program, into reserves. And that way, if we need to dig into it, we have the ability to do that. And then finally, we have 93,500 moving to our capital improvement projects for cash on hand payments for those projects. And then 50,000 that goes into our general fund contingency, which again is us saving for a rainy day. So let's talk about the budget impact for the homeowner. So on the left side there, you see the 2024 assessed values. You see the 2024 village taxes and versus the 2025 village taxes. So an important thing to note is while the mill rate went down, you might look at this chart and say, oh, well, my taxes are going to go down. How many people here's value of their home went up after we did the reval? Raise your hand. Right? Yours all did. So you might have been a $250,000 home before, and now you might be a $350,000 home, which means that you actually went from 1630 to 1775. So I just want to be very candid with you, because while we certainly are going to celebrate that we have a low mill rate, we also need to be honest with our taxpayers that values of their homes probably went up too. And that's why the mill rate changed like that. But just so we're clear, that's the equal comparison if values were to stay the same. So that's where I'll end it. It's just a brief summary. In your packet, you have the actual line items. These are the line items that we went through in finance that you're able to go through and ask me questions about. And then the full budget book is what I put in front of you. That's our fun, fluffy document with all of the explanations and pictures and charts within it as well. So from here to next 2 weeks, I encourage you to look through the book, look through the line items, ask questions of staff, of myself, and then we can come back in 2 weeks here for the public hearing, approval of the levy, and then approval of the budget as well. So I'll leave it at that. And then if anybody has questions, I believe that's the next item on the agenda.
All right, we will move on to items for discussion and or action. And the first item will be the discussion on the 2025 annual draft budget. So what questions do we have?
So Dave,
Yeah, it's a-
Dan, me and you discussed this, the 20% that was gonna be raised on the sewer rates. So that's just that's just something that we're not voting on until next year. Is that my understanding?
it's whatever you guys want to take it up, correct? I know I've talked with President Gerke. Originally, we planned in December to have Strand and Ellers come back to us. It sounds like there's some scheduling difficulties with them, so we might postpone that to January.
Okay.
But whenever, yes, whenever those groups come back before you all, everybody has a full understanding of what the wastewater treatment plant needs are. And you guys want to act on that, you act by resolution to approve that sewer increase, and then we would do it. So you approving the budget does not mean the rates go up. It doesn't happen until you guys all pass it by resolution.
Good.
Yep. Good question.
I don't want to fly through this and not offer ample time for people to ask questions.
We have a blank page.
I know there was 2 blank pages in the whole book that I just couldn't get erased, and I don't know why, so
Sure, their zero operating budget or.
that's Eric's budget.
Only more trees.
You should have just put this page intentionally left blank, then everybody be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Which I never understood.
So you got time. I mean, it's an 80-page document. I don't expect you to know it all right now.
Yeah.
So go through it over the next 2 weeks. Feel free to ask questions of us, and then we'll plan to come back prepared next time.
I just didn't know if there's anything big or pressing that anybody wants to say in front of the whole board, or if we take our time and do whatever. So. A lot of head nodding. We can move on. Everybody okay with that? All right, perfect.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
We will move on then. Discussion and possible action to act on resolution 2024-011 signage at the intersection of Cedar Valley Road and Martin Drive. Is my understanding that there is also a traffic statistics report that came out. I'm wondering if our marshal wants to talk about that.
Should have been included in your packet.
Yep.
One of the things we did notice when we looked at it is it did kind of confirm the information we had that speeds on Martin there are faster than they should be. Of particular interest though to us, and it kind of helped shape our thinking here, was the fact that a good deal of it appeared to be incoming traffic. Again, indicating that that speed zone it had to be part of the final solution. So not just the stop signs, which I still like, that I'm still recommending, but we also are, the arrangements have been made, I believe, correct, to push the speed zone out farther, which should hopefully help that, for people coming over it.
So how far out are you gonna push the speed limit?
So the next intersection.
Stonehenge? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Rick, I have the map here if you want to switch me back. I can show it on the screen.
Are you gonna be putting a stop ahead sign,
Oh, maybe.
you know, further west, beyond the actual stop signs? Cause they probably won't see them until they mount that hill on the way into town.
We can, there's spots to put one, but I was gonna do a double stop, Martin coming in the top, you know, the center, Preston Hill.
And we did take a look at it. At 25, there should be, at 25 miles an hour, there should be enough time cresting that hill to recognize and see the stop signs. Especially since we're gonna be putting a lot of the extra fluff on. Eric ordered the reflective tape to put on.
Hold on, I'm still learning how to do this.
Okay, there.
All right, there we go.
So we're putting stop signs on both sides of the road. We went up, took a look, and we found spots where we could put the signs that will resolve that, traffic problem with turning trucks. There just happened to be a convenient pole on the other side. So we're putting up 2 of them, one on each side of the road. That's unusual enough that we believe that's gonna attract some extra attention.
So
Okay.
east and westbound?
Hmm?
East and westbound they'll have?
Yeah, there's, for the westbound, there's just gonna be the one standard sign.
Okay.
Because the visibility is much better there. But for the traffic going eastbound, there's gonna be 2 signs, one on each side of the road.
Okay, so they're gonna be like just next to your driveway. Is that where it's gonna be?
I mean, like,
west of.
if they're there, like, one concern would be the truck travel. And it doesn't have gaps.
Yeah, we looked at, there's actually a
This is
pretty,
Cedar Valley.
pretty decent amount of space there, so there should be enough space for the trucks to,
Okay,
make
yeah,
that.
this is Hal's house right there, yeah.
How does that close, I mean, it doesn't happen on dying. Cisco's big here, Dan's usually going that way, like the intersection's pretty quiet, their house going east. I don't see a super problem with that. They just pull out into a middle of an intersection. It's like anything else.
Yep.
Great merge, like, you know.
Yeah, and it's far enough back to where the signs are that they'll be able to see that semi as well.
Yeah. Where's the got, right? I was pissed off, so I don't move.
Yeah.
So why put them there versus on Fox Glen or just west of Fox?
More because the traffic is a lot heavier on Cedar Valley there. So, again, the engineering standards are usually that you opt for the most congested intersection when you look at something like that. For example, Fillmore. Probably very similar. As a matter of fact, a lot of the traffic going to this intersection is the same one that going through Fillmore. They cut down here over on Martin, down Fillmore, and same up Fillmore. So it's more the congested nature of it.
Well, I
there's-
think also the problem with putting it at Fox Glen is people coming over the hill are all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
And there's,
Yeah,
yeah. And then
there's one lot.
And then there's somebody at the stop sign in the hill, somebody coming over the hill that gets it.
So westbound traffic's gonna have to stop twice?
Nope.
Or,
It's once.
okay,
We're just putting 2 of them for visibility.
Facing west.
and so eastbound will have to stop once.
Yeah, yeah. It's essentially a 3-way stop. We just put a second sign out for visibility.
Okay,
You know, like, for example, if that door was the roadway, there'd be a stop sign on the left side of the doorway and the right. When you're approaching.
okay.
So,
You put one of those LED signs with lights in the corners?
the lights part of the, I know you.
No, my budget was restricted.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
I can put a light up there.
You got
You got a battery, hell yeah.
We got flags though, we got flags, we got reflector paint, you know, we got a whole bunch of shiny things.
Sweet.
Well, but and to trustee Jordan's point, are we gonna put a stop sign, you know,
Stop ahead.
stop ahead?
Stop sign ahead,
Yes.
I think we certainly can, I don't know if that was part of the original sign package or.
I don't wanna add more close to the ground there, cause it's already congested. Site of view with everything, I can know there is a pole, it's off the road a little bit, and it's right after, so it'd be just east of Fox.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking something before the hill,
Not
something
realize.
Well-
before you go up the hill, that they could see it coming down the road before they get to the hill.
Yeah.
We are moving the speed limit sign back further.
That's part of this
So
too.
I did buy a flashing yellow light that I could put on one of the signs to know that either there's a stop sign coming or speed limit.
I think I would like that because I guess people notice, you know.
Yeah, I think right, even if it's a temporary signs up, so everyone's driven through there at least 5 times. It's low traffic, and the Google will take you if you're coming for some reason from Boston to Belgium and you've never gone that way. It will bring you right through there.
And I do think having the speed zone start back here is gonna help that as well. Because you won't have that, shouldn't have quite the speed coming over that hill.
And the town was good with you guys, that's great.
What about the sightlines? I know we talked about talking with the homeowners and trying to trim some of that back and open up those sightlines a little
Eric has
bit.
a plan with that as well, so. I know we spoke with one homeowner and got permission on this side of the road to do that day we were up there.
I like it.
Okay, and I can agree with all of this because obviously I live right there. But one thing that Hal and I were talking about, and I know this is not necessarily something that, but Marshall, and I mentioned it to both Marshall and Chris, but adding some sort of gravel 6 to 8 feet off one side because there are a lot of kids or a lot of people walking or biking back and forth between. And that's a major path for kids to leave Fox Glen and go down Market to go to school. And is there something that we can think about for future consideration of adding something, because that road narrows fairly significantly and it's actually frankly dangerous for kids, as my son can attest.
You like an acceleration lane?
No, she's talking more for pedestrians, I'm thinking, right?
Pedestrians,
Yeah.
for pedestrians. Kids biking, etc.
You have to cut it
Why,
across.
why do you even have this?
We have to cut it all the way across front yards. It's narrow.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's very
Super
narrow.
It's sort of weird.
Yeah, as soon as
And
you
it
hit
gets really narrow.
Cedar Valley.
I cut pretty good in front of my place. I mean, it's, it rains a lot, it gets muddy, but that's certainly walkable through there. And you start going over grass.
It's that, to be honest with you, I mean, just from my kids being there, it's that house on the corner or that property on the corner that butts up to yours. This is, and even tonight when I was driving there, I actually went that way. The trees here made it really hard to see anything coming over the hill.
Yeah.
And then even with
It's just
to
a very
the east,
dangerous.
this all right here is so hard to see anything past. There's not a ton of bushes or shrubs or brush or anything, but it's enough that it impairs any kind of sight.
But having, and I know it's not gonna be possible to do sidewalk, ideally, that would be the perfect thing, but we'd have to bring sidewalk up all the way up from Fillmore and Martin, and that's not gonna happen anytime soon. But having some sort of walkway between Cedar Valley and Fox Glen.
Even a couple more
If it
feet, because
feels
there, I
like-
mean, there's probably 2 or
Like
3
I said,
feet there
even
right
6
now, but
feet,
if you can get it
A
6,
6-foot
yeah,
stance.
something.
Because like I said, there's a lot of kids that leave Fox Glen and take Martin to school.
Honestly, probably the cheapest thing to do, you dig out, put another 5-foot ribbon of asphalt along. Remember those grass. You put gravel in.
I'm just throwing it out there that this is something that we should probably talk about as well.
Like a bike lane. Do a lot of them use bikes or are they walking?
It's
There's a
everything.
lot of, and there's a lot of walkers at night too.
Yeah,
I walk my dog down that
Yeah.
road all the
Yeah,
time.
it's part of the loop.
Yeah, even a widened out, even 3 widened out asphalt. All the way along there, so I think it's here. And you just have to stop the driveways, leave the driveways attached, and then have it just. Meet up with the width of that road. Then keep your, your white line where it should be, and you have a 3-foot wide shoulder, be enough, then even cars can understand that. And give you some safety factor instead of having to hit the grass and they ever move their mailboxes back, I mean, everything would be. Everything would work, that would probably be the.
Yeah, everything is
probably
right
the
on,
easiest solution.
everything's right on the driving lane in that part.
What's that?
Everything is right on the driving lane.
You're right there, I mean,
Yeah.
and then so,
Well, and
that's complete shit on the north side of the road, they shoulder it a little bit. And it's,
So
and even extending the 25 miles is going to be nice. There's still gonna be people that are going 35 miles over that. And I know when we were teaching Jonathan, road safety on his bicycle, it's like you stop at Fox Glen and you stop and you pay attention, and you listen. But with kids the way they are right now, they have their earbuds in, they're paying their phone, they're not paying total attention. I'm just really shocked that there hasn't been, and I think Marshall and I talked about it too, that there hasn't been more accidents right there.
Right.
But,
So
yeah,
I think-
it's very fortunate.
So I think and I agree with all that. I think for the purposes of this, so we're kind of sort of just talking about the traffic signage. So,
I know, I just want to make sure that.
Yep.
we're bringing it up.
yeah, no, absolutely. I just, before we get off into tangents, because I know that I can do that all the night too, and so,
We don't want to kill Eric's budget all at once.
yeah,
We do.
sure we do.
He does it to himself.
So are we, is there any other information on the signage? This is what you guys are looking at, the 3 stop signs moving to 25 mph back a little bit.
When are you, what's the schedule for getting those put up then? When is it gonna take effect?
And as soon as the board gives me the okay,
So tomorrow you're gonna put them up?
no, figures doesn't clear until Tuesday, because apparently, this past Tuesday was a holiday, Monday's a holiday, so.
Tuesday's a holiday for Energy?
When it's, if it gets approved with what was presented there, the intersection, I think would look pretty nice with new signage, reflective striping, new stop sign, speed sign.
I like it.
They'll get used to that one in a hurry.
So if there's,
Yeah.
Are you gonna have additional police presence there as we're starting to learn the new traffic patterns and helping?
We've already had increased presence up there in the past few weeks since this issue came up.
Is this something that we can post on Facebook or, one of the groups?
FYI, I understand. Yeah.
New stop sign?
mhm,
Watch out for a new marshal that likes to pull people over.
there you go. So a suggested resolution, the actual resolution, I should say, is in our packet if we want to act on that.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-012.
I second.
Nice.
Give it to Jess. She lives right over there. Yeah.
Cedar Valley.
Never seen people so passionate about making a motion before. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Next we have a motion to approve waiver of last day requirement for retiring DPW crew member.
Treasurer deputies can probably give a summary for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We need to hear you. All right, do your thing.
Okay, so our personnel policy says you have to work the last day of employment. One of our crew members has given like an 8-month notice that he will be retiring. But has asked that his last day of work be his birthday. But he wants to be on payroll for 2 additional weeks. Just even things out with insurance and all of this stuff. So his last working day would be April 10th, I think, right?
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later would be his official last day of, which would be like April 18th. Something like that?
Yeah.
I don't have my memo in front of me, so. I believe that when the personnel policy was written, the last day work requirement was for those people who just quit and don't give a decent amount of notice and kind of leave the village shorthanded, so we're asking that requirement be waived for this particular employee, so he can make his plans for April.
So what we're looking at is essentially he wants to leave his last day be his birthday and then take 2 weeks PTO, correct?
How much time is this individual have with the village?
Seniority,
I'm sorry, what?
How much time does he have with the village? Just curious.
gotta be like at least 15 years.
Yeah,
I
long
think.
time.
I think it's 12.
I was gonna say
12
years,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a long time employee. I don't believe it's too much to ask for a longtime employee that's given us 6 months' notice that he's retiring and whether for actual retirements. I think what his intention is to split that last check up and take a week's worth of wages and whatever first, and then take the bennies on the last check. Otherwise, he's gonna lose half that check to, and have to wait until he gets it back next year. I think that's entered into his decision too. Yeah, I don't think that's too much for an employee, longtime employee to ask.
Does anybody else have an opinion?
I think he deserves it. I mean, as long as he's giving us a notice and we can. Sure you have a replacement for him right here.
Sounds like you want to make a motion on that.
All right. I make a motion to approve the waiver of the last day requirement for the retiring DPW crew member. We have a name on this guy or does he have to remain?
Secret.
Top secret safari.
Yes, huh? Why?
I'll second.
It's not actually secret.
No.
All right, I have a motion.
This has nothing to do with what we're doing.
I have a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion?
Nope.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, secret DPW person. All right, now we have an introduction next of ordinance 2024-02 and ordinance amending portions of section 550-119 of the Code of Ordinance. Has to do with parking of vehicles. So, do you want to
Yeah.
take this away?
So,
Oof.
office staff, DPW crew and the marshal's office have been responding to numerous complaints over the summer months regarding overnight parking on village streets and in public lots. Additionally, the village board approved an updated snow and ice policy a few weeks ago that required us to tweak the existing code anyway. So in response to both issues, we have updated our existing ordinance to allow the marshal's office more flexibility in responding to those types of complaints. It will better equip the DPW in declaring and responding to a snow emergency, and also give residents an opportunity to park in village lots for an extended period of time. Currently, residents are already allowed to park overnight in public lots via the 24-hour parking restriction. But this would eliminate that option and require a permit to park overnight. So residents could purchase either, well, we suggest that residents could either purchase a week-long permit or a month-long permit for $10 or $25 respectively. And then we attach the ordinance.
Do any of these lots, are there any residents that park in there for their residents, like they live in an apartment next to the municipal lot and they don't have parking in their parking lot or whatever, you know what I mean?
Good question.
I mean,
I believe the village hall does get some parkers, during the winter months when the, street parking is not allowed. And I'm pretty sure that so does the one off of Hill. Yeah, there are cases where residents have used our municipal lots as effectively their parking.
Can I add to that? Please.
Me?
So currently, if a resident wanted to do that, they would have to apply for a permit. And that permit has to be approved by the village board. And that hardly ever happens. I think that we've had one application for that and they were like, well, this is too much work. We don't want to do it. And so we suggested repealing, I think it was, let me see, 550-19G, and then replacing it with the parking permit option. So if people are parking for extended periods of time and leaving their vehicle there, they're doing it without permission and they really ought not to be.
So when you say overnight, is there gonna be like it's gonna say on the signs that you can only park here a certain amount of time, and then if it's from midnight to 6 or something like that, then you need a permit, or is you need a permit period?
20 up to 6 a.m.
Okay,
We kept it the same as our winter parking ordinance. just
Okay.
for clarifications. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., but they would require a permit by the village department.
okay. So otherwise, like, let's say, someone parked there in daytime hours and then they removed the car. Then they wouldn't have to have a permit at all.
Correct.
Exactly, okay. So you're just, and then do we have a third shift, marshal at nighttime? then?
No, that's usually me coming in really early.
Okay, okay,
Are you volunteering?
no. Then they're done then.
So do we already have people that are using the lots just willy-nilly, kind of like, parking here for 7 days at a time and we're,
Correct, as long as they're obeying the 24-hour rule. But the 24-hour rule is very difficult to track and enforce.
Right.
You know, you have to tag the car, mark it in some ways, and then you have to check it after a period of 24 hours. The other thing we were looking at this is, and actually the primary reason that brought this to our attention was it gives us a mechanism to get a hold of these vehicle owners that are using our lots for that regard. If they need to move the car, if they need to move the car for snow removal, or if they need to move the car for
Emergency services.
That created the issue that we were looking at, as we were discovering vehicles that were there for long periods of time, and we had no real way of knowing for getting a hold of the owners. This would give us an ability to, okay, you know, this person here has a permit, here's the phone number, we can get a hold of them, and, you know, hey, you can move the other side of the lot so we can get some snow out of there, stuff like that.
if they fill out the permit.
If they fill out a permit, if not, you know, then we fall into our parking ordinance procedures.
I have personal experience with this village lot. One resident complained to me, guy was sleeping overnight in this lot. And it was a homeless guy. And I think that's something that we can't set a precedent for, having homeless people sleeping in these lots. We know the problem that Milwaukee County is having with their parking rides. And fortunately, me and this resident, we talked to this gentleman. He was very cooperative with me. I thought he was gonna tell me to, you know, go pound sand, but he was cooperative with us, and we made it known to him that we didn't approve of this activity. We were very nice, very polite to him, of course, and he stopped doing this. But the thing is, he told me, he says, it says a 24-hour lot. So for him, he can stay there forever. And I think we need this ordinance, big time.
When I came up with this, I modeled it after the Port Washington ordinance for their municipal lots, which I had a lot of experience with down in Florida, and it worked quite well for accomplishing both of those purposes, from keeping that build up of unexpected cars that are longer than some cases we realize, as well as giving us a mechanism for contacting the residents that do need that extra space and are relying on our lots for it. And that gives us a mechanism to kind of track that and get a hold of them if we need to, or, you know, again, we have to have for maintenance issues, for snow issues, things like that.
And I think these rates are reasonable enough. They're not confiscatory, so that people can afford them. The other thing with this, I don't want to prolong the issue, but I was in contact with Marshall Lee on this, and I happened to get this guy's name. I'm surprised he told me the truth, because my experience, no one tells me the truth. But he told me his name, and he knew who he was. He ran a record on him, and this individual had issues with drug problems. Yeah, so we don't need that kind of stuff here. So I think this parking ordinance is warranted.
So I guess the only concern I would have with the overnight 2 to 6 was one of our municipal lots is somewhat adjacent to an establishment that their patrons use that lot and probably require an alternate method of conveyance home.
And we're very reasonable in the marshal's office, if it's somebody that's there because they were safe for walking or stumbling home, and they get a parking ticket, all they have to do is call me and explain things, and I'll just like, you know, again, this is not a revenue. Parking tickets are not revenue, they're, and, we don't make money on these, in fact, village loses money on parking tickets. If there's a reasonable explanation, all they have to do is give me a call, explain it, and avoid that ticket. So I don't want drunk people on the road driving because they think they can't park in a lot of them. I would
Is
rather.
that something that we can talk to, establishments, owners and bartenders and make sure that some of the patrons are aware that they, all they have to do is contact you?
Yeah, I can sure.
Process.
Not every Friday.
Yeah.
It's their lot.
And this is me just questioning the just.
Oh, I thought you just were gonna say it's just me. I was like, oh, okay.
Logistics. Of be planning on purchasing parking permits to hang in their vehicles, or how are we planning to facilitate? Are they just gonna give you a list of the make, model, and license of their vehicles, and you know that, and you have to double check that, or is there going to be some sort of
Sticker.
Yeah.
tag,
a sticker.
to
It should be on
indicate
your
that they have a
computer.
permit? I mean, I'm assuming that there are gonna be a lot of people that once this, if we enact this, that there's gonna be several long-term parking permits. I'm just wondering about controlling of this.
The short answer is yes. When we first crafted this, my experience with Ford is they gave out hang on the rear view mirror, just printed cardstock permits that were produced by a printing company down in Fort Washington. When I was doing my research for this, I found out from them that they no longer hand out physical permits. They keep a log. They keep a log at police department that has, you know, the name, the phone number, vehicle description, plate number, and the length of the time that permit is valid. And then it's accessible to the officers or in this case, the officers on air for snow purposes. So we could do this either way, and Michelle and I are still in conversations about which way would be easier for her. And ultimately, that's probably my focus is I can do that either way. If we're handing out permits that they put on their rear view, that's fine with that. Will be fair, some people do sometimes have the permit, but forget to put it on. Or if we just want to keep it as a log at Village Hall that I can access, I need to get in, I can, does this car in the lot have permission? I can go look it up. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. There. I really do want to default to Michelle on that because she's going to have the workload when it comes to handing out and approving these permits. And I want it in the manner that she thinks is going to be work best for her. But that's kind of the internal minutia. I think we can even, I don't believe the ordinance needs to specify that. I believe we can make those changes in-house. So if we choose one that's not working, we can always adjust that.
Like I said, it was just logistically.
No, it's a good question.
So
And one we're currently looking at.
So I think the next time we come to you, we're gonna have a sample log, what the log would look like. We might have a parking permit sample. We'll have the updates to be scheduled for approval.
Yeah.
I think when
So it'll be one ready to go package.
yeah,
for adoption.
one package that has all of the, so that if you approve, we're ready to start working.
How many people do we think this is really affecting within the village?
Just judging from the vehicles I've seen over the winter months there. Half a dozen to a dozen.
Are we gonna give our residents options to do a year's work? If they so choose, or like 6 months? or-
The length of time and the amount for that length of time, it's kind of in your hands in that regard. We can do,
Like you said, winter, I was just wondering if there's residents that like to, that might want a 6 month or 3 month, or instead of coming and pay monthly,
Quarterly, or
early, or, you know, something.
maybe they get a discount for paying quarterly or
Yeah.
half year.
It says in here they're doing a week-long permit and a month-long, so. I guess it can't hurt to do a 3 month.
It's not
Um,
a resident, it's aware of it once.
So we did spell out in the ordinance the 7 days, Kurt, you're right, the 7 days or the month. We can strike that.
I'm just
Um,
curious, because it sounds like if we keep the $25 a month, but maybe a resident will come in and say, I want December, January, and February,
just prepay 3 months.
prepay 3 months at a time.
Oh, sure. I don't see why you couldn't do that, Eric.
Right, I think
Yeah.
that can be handled in-house in that.
Another thought, and I don't frequent the establishments, I go there occasionally, so I don't know how much this really affects, but if we had hang tags, that establishment could potentially sponsor 2, 3 tags to hand out to their patrons, as needed. It'd be a small fee for them, you know, for the establishment.
Or maybe it's
Maybe
us,
or maybe,
right,
yeah,
I was gonna say. We always have the authority to waive those fees if possible.
encourage them not to leave the lot.
So I'd like to just add, one of the reasons I was pushing for this was we have both trailers, vehicles with no tags on them. To try and clean that up, which this one does. Plus two, after snow event, the car doesn't move for 2 weeks after the snow. And the lot's not that big, so that was what I mean, no, yeah, I don't care if it's there. Move it now, so I can get that cleaned up, so we can keep using the lot, it's that truck that never moved. I lost 4 slots. So that was the point of trying to clean this up. And then find out who they are, taking your vehicle, and parking on the other side, so.
And we did give you authority, Eric, just to read,
Oh,
I know, 550G, 550-19G subsection 4, vehicles other than automobiles or light trucks. Any vehicle other than one properly registered as an automobile or light truck may be issued a permit only with the permission of and in the sole discretion of the Director of Public Works. So we have left open the opportunity for, vehicles other than, cars and trucks.
With your permission, it sounds like.
And obviously, maybe it's died down now, but you know what's gonna happen if someone comes in and has a permit to park their RV over there. This is why we're trying to eliminate. We are being proactive. Eric and Eric.
There you go.
Eric's gonna park all these tractors.
Can you make sure you put that in the minutes?
Eric
please?
and Eric.
Eric are on the job.
E squared. All right,
This, I
Lovely.
can't park in front of my house anymore overnight. Anymore.
No, this doesn't change any of the normal parking restrictions.
Cause like I do it like from March, what is it, March 1st through December
December 1st.
first. Because otherwise I'm juggling 2 cars in and out constantly.
Yeah, correct. Street parking year round, except for the winter parking month.
Yes.
Remains unchanged by this. This
Okay,
only
thank you.
affects.
So 550-19G handles the overnight parking for municipal lots only. We are slightly tweaking the overnight parking on the streets, right? Because we're eliminating that 48-hour language and switching it out with the 24. It was conflicting language. So really, we've been kind of following the 24-hour policy, but we're codifying it with this action. So you can still park overnight as long as it's not in the winter.
No, I don't do it in the winter. I'm lazy. I don't leave my house. Fair enough, but we juggle the two cars sometimes, or I don't, or we have like, I don't know. We, in the summer months, we do not park in the garage just so that we can move things around in there and stuff like that. And then the winter months, we do park 2 vehicles in the garage and then one off to the side because we got the college kid who comes home.
All right. Any other questions on the introduction here?
So no edits, we come back to you with the same one in 2 weeks.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so now we're gonna be going into closed session. My question is, we have 2 separate things that we'll be doing. Would we like our new treasurer candidate to stay here for both of them, or have her stop or stay out for the first one and come back to the second?
You got any
Yeah.
work for me today? Wanna stay?
So maybe we'll flip them, maybe we'll do F, and then we will come out of closed session to discuss I and J. And then go back into closed session. That sound good? Everybody good with that?
Well, I'm looking at our business clerk. Are you good with that?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's your
Good,
meeting.
because I'm gonna do it.
You're
anyway.
the boss.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's your
Great.
meeting.
All right.
We're doing.
Next, we have a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, appointment of village treasurer, and employee compensation. Well, someone's got to make a motion. Okay. All right.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second roll call vote. All those in favor, starting with trustee Miley.
Aye.
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 Bye.
Did I say aye? All right, we're in closed session.
Thanks.
All right, we are back in open session at 8:35 PM. Next, we have a motion to approve the appointment of, do you go by Julie or Juliet? Juliet Upson to the position of village treasurer. So looking for that motion from somebody.
I make a motion to approve Miss Upson or Julie Upson as the treasurer for the village of Vernonia.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have discussion and possible action on compensation for village treasurer. Crickets? No?
Compensation.
Do we just need to make motion for, okay, I make a motion to, let's see. Do I just go off of?
Yeah. I'm just saying that effectively.
I make a motion to offer Ms. Hudson the, base salary of 50,000 per year, 32 hours per week with a start date of 11/11/2024.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome aboard.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
All right, I'll get out of here. All right, looking for a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties and the investing in public funds or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, Great Line Electric addendum and guarantee.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor will go down by trustee Miley again.
Aye.
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 We are in closed session at 8:37 PM.
Here's your time.
I know.
I think you only need a roll call to go into close.
It is 8:49
I
PM.
could get an opinion on that. It'd save us time.
From someone that has
opinion-
experience.
My opinion is we'll just do it, because why not? All right. 8:49 PM, we're back in open session. Looking for a motion on agenda item number H.
I make a motion to act on, as discussed on the closed session, the action of Greatland Electric Addendum Guarantee. What's it that way?
Addendum.
Addendum.
Got that?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have correspondence. This is I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time talking right now. We're looking at an article on the water tower rentals. I think trustee Dorwart, wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, this said, it's in here. Pretty sure it just got this like last week. It was, attorney from Madison. That works for, that board and the other one. Anyhow, she deals with, water tower leases all the time, and she doesn't like recommend for any amount of money to sell, off our ability to lease our own water tower. And a number of other things, so. If you go through that article, that's food for thought.
It was very coincidental that happened to be in the magazine right after we had our discussion and approval. We did send that story to Attorney Herbrand, who's working on the eventual agreement with TowerPoint. So if there was any legal feedback or ideas from that he could glean and add to protect us, then he's able to do so. So we appreciate Trustee Dorward for sharing that.
Thank you for that.
That's, well, as far as water, just say no, no matter how much you buy or offers to pay by your municipal water tower leases, which that's what this person is doing, buying our water tower leases. The risk associated with losing control of the municipality's water tower is not worth it. So, and there's another, bunch of stuff in there that backs it up.
We'll take a look and have our attorneys talk to us and figure out what's what. All right, any questions or concerns on that, anybody? Are there any items for future consideration?
So of this water tower thing, we already approved it.
We have a letter of intent.
Yeah.
We have not actually.
So
Okay.
you approve the letter of intent. It's all contingent on that lien agreement. And so that's that document, that actual legal binding document that the attorneys are working on. So that's going to come back before you. And that's
Okay.
when you adopt that, that's when it'll be official.
Okay. And we made an official offer with them, right?
Now we're in the process of adding up billable hours from our attorney negotiating.
All right, are there any items for future consideration?
Well, just one, motion to adjourn.
I have a motion,
Second.
a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're out of here at 8:53. Forward meeting.
We have to have decent meeting day.
What's that?
Don, if by decent meeting you mean